this morning as we get ready for another day. Today is Tuesday, July the 4th. And so we say hello to all our American followers and wish them the best of this holiday today. We are recording episode number 398 of our Insight to the End Times today. That is a milestone, and this week we're going to hit episode number 400. I'm pretty excited about that. We're looking at the spirit of the Antichrist in the today and tomorrow, as well as yesterday. The spirit of the Antichrist. The spirit of the Antichrist foretells his coming with activities that are occurring on this earth that are going to be very, very normal in his time when he comes on the scene. It's not going to be a good time. It's going to be a bad time. It's going to be a time of great terror when he comes on the scene, and we're not far from that occurring according to most of the signs that we are seeing. Over the years in my studies as a believer and looking at the conflict between heaven and hell, or the conflict between God the Father and the devil, Satan, Lucifer, whatever title he might have at the time, what we see is that the Satan operates along three major lines. You may or may not have heard this before, but he is an intimidator, he is a dominator, and he is a manipulator. And anytime you find someone who is operating in those areas, manipulating you or dominating you or intimidating you, that is not of God. You need to be well aware that is not of God. But we're finding that is occurring on a regular basis now in so many areas of life. We're finding in a marriage situation, we're finding a great deal of this occurring. They call it spousal abuse. But in essence, it's more than spousal abuse. It's demonic activity where one party dominates the other or intimidates the other or manipulates the other. It's also occurring in our governments, really occurring in those settings. It also occurs in business dealings where one party tries to dominate the other or intimidate the other or manipulate the other. A very simple illustration. Let's say you go into a car dealership and you're looking at a car, and you have one that takes your fancy, and the car salesman comes up to you and wants you to make a decision on it right away because you know he has another customer coming in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just 2 hours from now, who likes that car and wants to buy that car. So if you want it, you better put an offer on it right now. That's called manipulation, and it's also called intimidation. You see this in house sales. I've seen it many, many times when we're just looking. We're going to an open house just to look. And the salesperson will come up to us and tell us, if you like this house, you better act on it quickly because we've got 2 other people coming in later today. They're going to make offers on this house. So if you want it, you better make an offer right now. That's manipulation. That's intimidation. We see it in friendships. We see it in negotiations. We see it in deal making. We see it everywhere. And anything that's built on these 3 demonic activities of manipulation, domination, or intimidation, ultimately it's going to fail because it's built on the wrong structure, on the wrong foundation. Now, why did I share that with you? Because the spirit of the Antichrist is going to be an expert in these areas. And he's going to dominate, he's going to intimidate, and he's going to manipulate. In fact, we could say that all 3 of these really could be condensed into one word. It's called control. He wants control. Now, this control issue is not new to the world. We've seen it all through the scriptures, but we also see it in real life. And if you have parents, for instance, or grandparents who lived back in the days of Second World War, back in the 1940s, the Great War, as they would call it, the nation of Germany was under this kind of oppression. They were dominated, they were intimidated, they were manipulated. And it was a sequence of events that occurred over a long period of time, and it got to the place where people considered it to be norm. We see this in all these other areas where there's been conflict and war going on, and there's domination, manipulation, and intimidation. We could go back in history and we would see that in the southern states, for instance, in the days of the slaves. There was intimidation, domination, manipulation. We know it was wrong. when we look back on it, but it was demonic. Everything's demonic is wrong. And here's what we got going on in Russia versus Ukraine right now. The Russian president has sent his troops into the Ukraine. It's now in 15 or 16 months of conflict. And we could say that this is the same situation. It's domination, a desire for domination, a desire to totally manipulate and intimidate the other side. Just threats of this and threats of that. You know, they're threatening nuclear fallout, nuclear war. They're threatening to attack the nuclear plants in the Ukraine and so on. It's totally demonic. It all centers around control. And the dictator known as the Antichrist. I use that term very directly. He's a dictator. He will be a dictator. But you see that his spirit is operating in the land today because we have a lot of activity occurring that is of that nature. We're seeing our governments manipulate us, dominate us, and intimidate us. The pandemic is a great example. It began in March of 2020. I don't know if it's over yet, but for the most part, it seems to have wound down quite a bit. But that's still 3 years. And what happened? We were dominated, we were intimidated, and we were manipulated. And fear overtook the entire nation, over the entire world for that matter. The governments, the health authorities, the medical profession, whether they were on the leading edge or whether they were on the following edge, it was a case of control, 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 control. And I see in our local newspapers that to this day, we're now in 2023, it's the month of July, where over 3+ years since the pandemic broke out, they have now come out and they have indicated that the vaccines that were being administered in 2021 and so on now have no impact or effect. They're not to be taken, etc., etc. But if you were a nurse in one of our hospitals who refused to be vaccinated, you lost your job. Now they're applying to be reinstated, and they're still it's still being demanded that they take these 2 vaccinations or be vaccinated with whatever the current stuff is before they can be hired back. They're still being dominated, manipulated, and intimidated. Demonic activity, spirit of the Antichrist. Spirit of the Antichrist. And a lot of people have no clue about what I'm saying. A lot of people say, well, they're just trying to protect people. Folks, you've got to get your head out of the sand and begin to realize what's going on here. It's a spirit of control. It's the spirit of the Antichrist. And when he comes on the scene, it's going to be all-out control. Boy, you do not want to be here for that whatsoever. So I hope I've helped you today understand what we're going through, because you can't pick up a newspaper without seeing this occurring. And it's occurring on such a widespread basis. It's out of control. I'll see you tomorrow. I've got some more good stuff for you. Call you blessed. Happy July 4th. Amen.